At the moment, there are 4 living popes. How did God manage to put 4 living popes on the earth to confuse all the Christians? The Catholics think that their pope has power over all Christians, but there are other popes that contest that idea. The people give the Pope power because they believe that the Pope should have power. Their beliefs come from teachings. If those teachings are incorrect, that means that the people have been indoctrinated. The Roman Catholic Church, in first place, has 1.1 billion sheep following it. And the Pope is the 266th Pope in the line of succession from St. Peter. In second place, we have the Pope of the Greek Orthodox Church. His name is Bartholomew. He is the 270th Pope, and he has 200 to 260 baptized members. Then in third place, the Pope of the Coptic Church of Alexandria is Tawadros II, who is the 118th Pope. They have 12 to 18 million members. Egypt is the home to about 14 million of them. Then in fourth place, the underdogs, we have the Palmarians. The first Pope was elected in 1978. They have only had 4 popes with about 2,000 sheep following them. The Pope is supposed to be God's representative on earth. If God can't get his representative correct, I have a lot of doubts about the God of the Catholic Church. One might think that the Gnostics were correct, and the words archon and demiurge spring to mind. So in order to be Pope, you've got to have some sort of authority. Right, where does the authority of the Catholic Church come from? Every Pope takes the place of Peter as an apostle, hence becoming technically himself an apostle of Jesus. An apostle is one of Jesus' inner circles, and there are only 12 seats. The Pope today is an apostle of Jesus. This has never been said in the Bible. So do you understand? The concept is that because Peter started the Catholic Church and he was an apostle, therefore all of his successors then de facto take his place as an apostle. This gives the Catholic Church papal authority and infallibility. For rare occasions, when the Pope speaks ex cathedra, literally from the chair of St. Peter, he can issue formal definitions of faith or morals. Because he comes from the seat of Peter and Peter was chosen by Jesus, the Catholics then think that anything that the Pope says is from God. It is an absolute truth. And I might say that the Catholic Church has had some very strange absolute truths, one of them being that the earth is not round. To explain a little bit about the other churches, I've got to go into a little bit of historical detail. In the early Christian era, Rome and a few other cities had claims on the leadership of the worldwide church. Those cities were Rome, Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Alexandria. There was a bishop in each of those cities called a patriarch. The Pope was not called the Pope early on, but he was called the Bishop of Rome, just as they had a Bishop of Constantinople and of Antioch and of Jerusalem and of Alexandria. The Bishop of Alexandria is the head of the Greek Orthodox and Eastern Church. That church is built upon the lineage going back to Mark the Apostle, also Mark the Gospel writer. The Catholic Church thinks that they have authority because their lineage goes back to the Apostle Peter. This means if Peter was not appointed the Pope and he doesn't have authority, then the Pope is a false Pope and you cannot follow him or listen to him as the beacon of truth, the light of this world, and also a representative of God and Jesus. Now that is very, very serious, and I'm going to show you how the Pope is perhaps not the real Pope. The Orthodox Church, whose patriarchs are from Alexandria, does not see the role of the Pope how the Catholics see the role of the Pope. Up until 381, the Patriarch of Alexandria ranked next to the Bishop of Rome, who now is the Pope. They were equals. Many denied that Peter and the popes had universally recognized supreme authority over all the early churches. Instead, They came to the idea that the Bishop of Rome was and is first among equals, as stated by the Patriarch of the Orthodox Church, who is also the Bishop of Alexandria in the 2nd century AD and again in the 21st century. First among equals does not mean total control over the Catholic Church, nor a representative of God. It is typically used as an honorary title for someone who is formally equal to the other members of their group. The Bishop of Alexandria, also head of the Orthodox Church, separated from the Catholic Church in 1054. The reasons were for heresy. The Catholic Church called them heretics and they called the Catholic Church heretics, so they split. The Pope is the Bishop of Rome, but he was not always called the Pope. It was the Bishop of Alexandria in the Orthodox Church who was originally called the Pope. This is a letter from the Bishop of Rome, who now we understand to be the Pope, calling the Bishop of Alexandria the Pope. The Bishop of Rome, called Dionysius, in a letter written to Philemon, refers to the Patriarch of Alexandria as Pope Heracles of Alexandria. And it says, "I received this rule and ordinance from our blessed Pope Heracles." The Coptic Pope of Alexandria, not to be confused with the Eastern Orthodox Pope of Alexandria, were both founded by St. Mark, where both of their roots go back to. Due to several schisms within Christianity, the title of the Patriarch of Alexandria is currently held by 4 persons belonging to different denominations. You can see that within the church there is a lot of confusion and there is a lot of debate. The Coptic Church separated in 451 before the Greek Orthodox, which was in 1054. You have the Catholic Church and then you had the Eastern churches. Then in 451 from the Eastern churches, there was a separation which became the Coptic. So then there were 2. And then there was another separation in 1054. It is very complicated, and I apologise if I haven't got all my theology correct. If Peter was head of the Catholic Church, then we need to find some sort of evidence. The Catholics claim that they have authority because their unbroken lineage, which has been broken, came from Peter, who is the apostle. The reason the Catholics think that they have authority is because there is a passage in the Bible which talks about a stone being the bedrock or the cornerstone of the church. It all comes down to a passage in Matthew which says, "You are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church." The Catholics think that Peter is the rock, but everyone else thinks that the rock is Jesus. If the rock is Peter, then the Catholics do have authority. If the rock is not Peter, then there is no authority and the Pope is not the Pope. In other parts of the Bible, Paul refers to Jesus as the rock. The Old Testament has many verses which depict Christ and God as the rock. Peter is a human. Humans by nature are sinful. If the stone or the foundation of the Catholic Church is built on something sinful, then the Catholic Church would have to fall. If the Catholic Church was built on Jesus, who is pure, then the Catholic Church would not be able to fall. In order for the Catholic Church to have power, it needed to manipulate the interpretation of the verse, changing the rock from Jesus to Peter. If the Catholic Church can get people to believe that it is the rock, then people will believe in the Catholic Church. Then the Catholic Church can have power and control over them. This leads to indoctrination. In Galatians, it is shown that Paul was going to take the gospel to the Gentile world. The Gentile world is the West, that is Rome. Peter was going to take the gospel to the Jews. They went in opposite directions, and there is proof that Peter was not in Rome. The Catholic Church also puts forward the idea that there has been an unbroken line in the Catholic traditions concerning the popes. Firstly, in the first 4 centuries before the first pope, there was no pope because nobody believed Peter was head of the church. Had they believed Peter was the first pope, then there would automatically have been a lineage, and there was none. The concept of Pope wasn't accepted until 445 AD by Pope Leo I, and it wasn't to do with spirituality, it was to do with power. And the Catholic Church needed to find authority, and so it found it in the Bible, and it twisted what was said, saying that the rock referred to Peter and not to Jesus, when it quite clearly says in the Bible the rock refers to Jesus and to no one else. And even Peter says he is not head of the church, nor a leader, and nor was he even in Rome when he was supposed to be in Rome. The other problem with the teaching of an unbroken line is that in 1045, Pope Benedict IX was running out of office because of his unworthiness, with Sylvester III taking his place. When Benedict IX returned, he sold the papal throne to Gregory VI, but still refused to give up his own claim to the throne. So at this time, all three men claimed to be the legitimate pope. Then in 1046, the German Emperor Henry III settled it by deposing all three popes and appointing a fourth pope, Clement II. So history hardly supports this unbroken line of popes. Where does the Catholic pope come from? Two people you need to know: Simon Magus and Apostle Peter. Simon Magus's full name is Simon Peter Magus. He is an occult practitioner and a formidable magician. As stated in the Bible, he used sorcery and bewitched the people of Samaria. He wanted the power of the apostles, he tried to buy it, and he was rebuked by Peter. When Jesus died, Peter, whom the Catholic Church claimed was the first bishop of Rome, went to the Jewish people. He was put in charge of the uncircumcised, not the whole world. It was decided that Paul would go to Rome for the Gentiles, where Simon Peter Magus also went. The Catholics claim Peter went to Rome. The Bible explicitly denies this. Simon Peter Magus, disliked by the apostles, became a famous person, a celebrity in Rome from his magic. He was buried in the most sacred of Roman cemeteries, and the Roman government, people and emperor declared him a god and had a statue in his name erected. Underneath it said, "The Holy God Simon." They say that Peter the Apostle was buried in Rome. However, because Peter was a Jew, he would not be buried in a pagan cemetery, and the cemetery in question was reserved for prophets, soothsayers, and the great ones of pagan Rome, not one that attacked the Roman religion as Peter did. Simon Peter Magus blended paganism and Christianity together. He had a huge following where he set up his own church. If Peter had been assigned the first pope, then the Bible would say, Simon Magus, the leader of the pagan church at that time, fits perfectly as being the one who brought paganism and Christianity together, which resulted in the Roman Catholic Church. Near 45 AD, we find Peter being cast into prison in Jerusalem. In 49 AD, he was still in Jerusalem, this time attending the Jerusalem Council. In 51 AD, he was in Antioch of Syria, where he got into differences with Paul because he wouldn't sit or eat with the Gentiles, who were the people of Rome. Strange that the Roman bishop would have nothing to do with the Gentiles in 51 AD. Later in 66 AD, we find him in the city of Babylon among the Jews. The Apostle Paul distinctly informs us that Peter was not in Rome in 65 AD, even though Catholics say he was. The Pope of the Catholic Church has no authority. They say he comes from Peter, the first bishop of Rome. Peter was never in Rome. Peter never wanted to have a pope, never wanted to be a pope. The person that perhaps was Peter was an occult practitioner. The Catholic Church needs to be very careful what it has built its foundations on. The foundations that the Catholic Church has built itself on have caused the Church to indulge in sex, money, rape, incest, violence, genocide. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe to my channel, please press the subscribe button. Thank you very much.